Mr. Mason, you previously appeared in court when you proved that the defendant's one-year-old daughter was not your child. You are now here questioning the paternity of the defendant's 5-month-old son, Ace. You previously received results from a prenatal paternity test which stated you are the father. You are here petitioning the court to reopen your case and order a paternity test now that Ace is born. Ms. Malone, you claim to be certain that the plaintiff is Ace's dad and plan to prove it today. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Mason, tell me why you are here for the second time again in court.
I'm here for the second time, Your Honor, because I feel like still that Ace is not my child. I feel like that it's impossible to get a DNA for a child that's unborn just from a swab of the mother. I guess that's the only way I'm still acting the way I am toward him.
Well, you don't get the DNA of the child that's born just from a swab of the mother. Do you understand what a prenatal test is?
Not for real, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, look, I'm listening to your case because I want to understand why you don't believe the results. So I ordered a new paternity test just for you. So you believe that the mother was swabbed and it's impossible to tell the DNA or the paternity of an unborn child.
Yes, Your Honor.
What other reason do you have?
Every time I held Ace, it's like all he did was just cry. And there was just no connection.
That's what a baby does. They cry when they first born.
There was just no connection. Even when I look at Ace, I don't see me.
So what part of this situation relates to the fact that you don't believe the prenatal testing results?
Now he think Mr. Haynes, my fiance, is the dad of Ace.
I believe.
Oh, you believe Mr. Haynes is Ace's biological father?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe Mr. Haynes is the father.
Why?
Because when I'm over there visiting my other kids with Miss Malone, she feels like
they got a bond.
Ace will be crying, and first person she'll give them to is Mr. Haynes. She'll be like, "Go to your daddy." If I was Ace's father, she would hand.
And the
Ace
reason
to
of that
me.
being,
she'll hand them to Mr.
The
Haynes
reason of that
instead
being,
me.
Your Honor,
it's like
is
she doesn't even want me to be.
We
a
got
part
into
of
an
his life
argument
at all.
over the phone, and these were his exact words. Ace is not my son. I just gave him my middle and last name.
So this is after you all left the courtroom. He said, "Ace is not my son. I just gave him my
Your
middle
Honor.
and last name."
Yes, Your Honor. I met Mr. Haynes February 22nd, 2017.
I don't believe that, Your Honor. She could have kept him a secret or anything,
No.
and then just got rid of me just to move him back.
I didn't know her when she had Ace in her stomach.
You didn't even know her when she was pregnant?
No.
Never known anything about each other.
So you don't believe that to be true, Mr. Mason?
No, ma'am. I feel like...
Why don't you believe it?
Because if that was the case, Your Honor, when I was in the hospital when she gave birth to Ace, she had put my name on the birth certificate, removed my name off the birth certificate just to put Mr.
Reason
Haynes'
of that
name
being
on
is
the birth
The
certificate.
reason
I asked
So
him.
wait a minute now. She took your name off the birth certificate?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you put Mr. Haynes' name on
The
Ace's
same
birth
day
certificate?
after I left out of the hospital, after she had already put my name on the birth
Your
certificate,
Honor.
I had left out to go
So
to
hold
work,
on, I'm
took
looking
my
at this.
name off the
Your
Hold
Honor.
on. I'm looking at your evidence submitted to this court. Ace Marcus Mason. And father's full name, Courtney Teron Haynes.
You don't put a complete
So how
stranger's
is it
name
you
on a
met
birth
in
certificate if you
February
just met
after Ace was born?
Your Honor, he's
but
not
you
on the
put-
real birth certificate.
Oh,
He's
what-
not on the hospital. Like, they give you a piece of paper in the hospital, and you have to fill your information out on that.
And so what is this you submitted to the court?
That's just the birth certificate that the hospital gave me that I could take home. And
Oh, that's
on
the
the
thing
back
that
of that,
comes-
that's what he signed. So
Oh.
in the record, he has no father. It's nobody's name on his birth certificate, really.
But if you've already determined that Mr. Mason is the biological father, then why would you put somebody else's
he
name in
wasn't
that?
acting like one.
Because
Mr. Haynes acted like more of a father than Mr. Mason did. He was there.
So you're saying it was a statement that this is the man that's acting like Ace's real father.
Yes, ma'am. And he act like he didn't want it. He act like he didn't want to be on the birth certificate. So I was angry and hurt.
And I can see you still have tears in your eyes. You moved on with your life, but this still upsets you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And why does it upset you so much?
He's still dwelling on the past. I know what I did, and I confessed up to that. I owned up to it. And he's still bringing the past in. He just needs to own up to Ace, be a father to Ace, be in his life.
She has not lately gave me the chance at
Hold
all.
on, technically, she
At
has
all.
gave him the chance. He never
She's
picked up
never
Ace when
gave me the chance.
whenever he came
Whenever
over.
he
Ever
came
since-
and
Whenever he
visited,
came over,
it was
it was
always
always
about my
the daughter.
2-year-old.
Ever since she's been with Mr. Haynes, it's always just been about her and Mr. Haynes.
No,
and
it's
Ace.
That's
never-
how he
That's
feels.
all-
And the only reason why
that's
he
all
feels
it-
that way
and
is
I'm
because I
always
moved
over
on and
there
I'm not with
visiting
him
my
anymore.
kids, and it's always just about them.
You say you need to come back to this court and you petition this court to reopen this case.
Yes.
Because you said, I have no bond with this baby. I don't believe in the prenatal test. I feel like Mr. Haynes was in Ms. Malone's life before Ace was born.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I believe he's the biological father.
Yes, Your Honor. It's something I just need to know.
Well, I gave you the answer. But you're still standing here.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because he's dwelling on the past. That's all it is with him, is the past.
What is it about the past you can't let go of, Mr. Mason?
Me and Miss Malone, we was together for 5 years. And for 5 years, I feel like it was nothing but just dishonesty. And it was more bad than good.
And it was on both of our
And so
behalves.
that's
It
why
was
we
not
came
just
the
me.
last time, because of the same situation as basically this time. Even when we was in the hospital before Ace was even born, she was sending ultrasound pictures
No,
to
I was not, Your
another
Honor.
person.
I do not recall that.
You were sending pictures to another
I
person.
do not recall that.
And this is before Ace was born or after?
It was before. I just feel no connection
No
at all.
connection.
So
Like a
when you
baby's
went
supposed to
back
talk
home
back.
with the baby, you just felt like you felt absolutely no connection.
Yes, Your
And
Honor.
that troubled you.
A lot.
And then the doubts you had just kept building.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what else was happening?
Well, me and Miss Malone, we had went our separate ways.
You did.
And yes,
Yes, Your Honor, because when we got back,
and when
he
we
cheated
went our separate ways,
after we agreed that we was not going to dwell on the past, he still did it anyway.
And
So I took your advice and I left him. And
didn't-
now I'm
I
starting
didn't necessarily
to.
cheat.
What was it?
I didn't cheat. I didn't cheat at all.
He left me for another woman.
I didn't leave her at all, and I didn't cheat.
Before the
A
baby was
stripper
born?
at that.
It was.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you leave her for a stripper?
No, Your Honor, I did not.
Yes, Your
I
Honor, he
not.
did. He
I
did,
I
Your
had
Honor.
a friend that I was
He was-
talking to.
It was
because
not
I
a friend,
couldn't
Your
talk
Honor.
to
It was
Miss
way
Malone.
more than what he's saying
So
it was.
I was just talking to
One
her.
night I was going
I
through
came
his
back
phone.
and-
One at a time.
I was going through his phone one night. I was wondering who this woman was. She kept calling, she kept calling. One night I caught him slipping. He left his phone on the table, and she kept calling that night. I picked up and asked her who she was. So she asked me, go ask your man.
Oh, really?
Yes, Your Honor, she did. So,
She was
with
just
no
a friend,
questions, I
somebody
packed
that
his
I could
clothes,
talk
threw
to.
him down the stairs. He wakes up, asks me what I'm doing. I told him he was cheating.
And did he admit to it?
He denied it, like
'Cause I
he is
wasn't
now.
Because I was not cheating at all.
So, Mr. Mason, you here saying you don't trust the results when you the one that's not being trustworthy.
I wasn't cheating, Your Honor, at all. I went to a friend who I could talk to about my situation because I could never go to Miss Malone and talk.
What
to
was
my
your situation?
It was about the whole relationship situation with Miss Malone, about her past and all this other stuff. I couldn't bring it to her, so I brought it to somebody who can relate and could understand. And like I told her, every time I see Ace, I don't see me.
And that's
I
only
see
because he
Mr.
does
Hayes.
not. That's only because he doesn't want to.
Even if I wanted to bond with Ace, Ace is always with Miss Malone and Mr.
There's
Hayes.
nothing for you to come take him and
Though
bond with your son.
He's the only one. She grabs baby Ace and she hands him to Mr. Haynes. It's like
The only
just-
reason
he
why is
doesn't
that
cry.
because I'm more of the
He doesn't
father
cry.
figure for Ace. He wasn't there for Ace. I was.
He's not more of a father figure to me. I feel like he picks favorites also out of all three of the kids.
No,
We-
I don't pick
Baby.
favoritism
No,
because
not
I
at
play with all three.
All
He
three.
loved my
All
kids.
three.
Okay, Mr. Haynes doesn't have kids. So when we got engaged, he seen my kids as his own. Of course, it's a new thing to him trying to show all three of my kids attention. He's fantastic with it now.
Since the baby's so young and you spend more time with the baby is
More
more
attached.
He's
comfortable and more
to me
attached
'cause
than
he
you.
probably thinks I'm
Because you are the
I'm father
consistent
figure.
father figure.
Yes.
Yes,
But
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Mason, you're interpreting this to be, well, we only had the test done in vitro, a prenatal test done. Now that we back home, you got Mr. Haynes listed on this piece of paper as the daddy.
And
Every
Ace
time you
looks
say
like
go to
he's
your
the-
daddy, you give the baby to him. I don't feel a bond when I look in at the baby. Something's wrong here.
Yes.
That's what you've been feeling like?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ace is 5 months old.
Yes, Your Honor.
And as I sit up here on this bench, it truly troubles me that this baby for 5 months has gone without truly the love and attention he deserves from his biological father because of your disbelief, your mistrust of the testing. This is the exact reason why we performed a prenatal test. It's so that when this child was born, the question would be answered so that he could have the love, affection, support, and protection of his father.
But I tried. She
And
does
that's
not
why
count
this
me.
courtroom exists. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Mr. Mason. As a judge, as a woman, I practiced law for over 2 decades. I have every reason to throw this case out because you have not presented any evidence here today that would suggest something was wrong with that prenatal test we've previously performed, which determined that you were the father. So as a judge, I should throw it out. But if you don't understand the process, I do understand how you can't trust the result. I don't want you to leave this courtroom with any lingering doubt. So standing by on the phone is Dr. Baird. He is the Chief Science Officer at DNA Diagnostics, and he can further address the validity of the earlier DNA test. When it comes to 5-month-old Ace Marcus Mason, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Mason, you are the father. Again.
So, that's your son. You need to just start taking care of your son.
And I'm
Start
going to
bonding
the
with your
same-
son.
The same way I do with the other two.
Okay.
The same way I do with
And
the
I
other
hold you
two.
to that.
That means my name
And
is
I
about to
hold
go
you
on
to
that
that.
birth certificate, and his name's
okay.
coming off tomorrow.
No problem.
Mr. Mason, I would say you done wasted my time today, but the truth is I don't believe that, and that's why I heard you out. But I could tell you had worked yourself up into doubting this baby over your own misunderstanding of science and the law. And that's why I let this play out, because this is an important lesson for you and for many people. Your lack of understanding of the process, which was obviously performed correctly, like I already knew, has robbed Ace of 5 months of love, care, and bonding time with his daddy. But I'm glad we got the answer for Ace's sake, and I hope you will be the father you say you will be. We have counseling and resources